It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage.
For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory.
Monty Clark's team is 1-4 and is one of the least pleasant surprises of the season. The fans in Detroit are ready to trade their bad deal for whatever's behind the secret curtain. But last week, the only deal Monty was making was to remove Greg Landry from the starting quarterback job, despite the fact that he ranked 4th among NFC signal callers. In his place was Gary Danielson, a third-year man from Purdue. Still, the task ahead was formidable because the Washington Redskins were in town, undefeated at 5-0, and as high as a totem pole after their nationally televised victory over their arch-rival, the world champion Dallas Cowboys. One of the more unusual surprises of '78, the over-the-hill gang was picked to roll down the hill. Instead, they've reached the peak under flashy quarterback Joe Theismann. But standing high and unbeaten, some teams tend to overlook the little guys who are scrambling around below them. The Lion is a stealthy beast when hungry, and last week he was ready to pounce, as we'll see when the Washington Redskins meet the Detroit Lions in the NFL Game of the Week. Gary Danielson's intentions became clear on the first play from scrimmage. The Lions were going wide open. Unfortunately, it takes a combination of wide open and good hands to get things clicking. Detroit's first drive was snuffed when number 53 Harold McClinton squashed Dexter Bussey in his attempt to get around left end. The only thing the Lions had going for them was punter Tom Skladany's 57-yard roller that was aided and abetted by hasty downfield coverage. If on offense the Lions had been caged, on defense they'd be cagey. The cruncher was fourth-year tackle Doug English, number 78, and he came down on the Redskins' Mike Thomas like a Rocky Mountain landslide, stifling the Skins for a 6-yard loss. It was a little early to be predicting anything, but in the first period, the Detroit defense was emotional and inspirational. And guess who got the message? Well, Dexter Bussey got it as he ripped for 20 yards. A replay shows that guard Lynn Bowden, number 62, threw the key block as he blasted safety Ken Houston to the outside, so Bussey could cut inside and scamper for the first down. On the very next play, fullback Horace King steamed downfield for the Lions' longest run from scrimmage in 1978, 52 yards. But now the Lions' big problem of inconsistent offense raised its shaggy head. After gliding for 72 yards on 2 plays, they couldn't move the ball 4 yards on 3 plays. Stalled at the 1, Detroit had plenty to kick about, and Benny Ricardo did it to give the Lions a 3-0 edge. Feeling that the offense didn't fully get the inspirational message, the Detroit defense continued to percolate and permeate throughout the Redskins' game plan. Defensive end Al Baker dumped Theismann for minus 12 yards on this play, sort of a baker's dozen. In a replay, watch number 60 at the lower right-hand portion of the screen, and you'll see a man revved and ready for action. When the Lion offense took over, it immediately began once again to gobble up meaty chunks of yardage. Beautifully executed blocking assignments busted Bussey loose on a 22-yard ramble. A replay shows the Redskins to be so slow in reacting and so far from the action that it wasn't until Bussey was well into the secondary that he encountered any opposition. Despite a searing rush by number 80 Coy Bacon, Gary Danielson kept his cool and not only scrambled out of harm's way, but also completed the play to the Redskins' 10-yard line. Danielson's gumption under the gun deserves another look. It also makes one wonder how a team can look so effervescent while getting close to scoring and then fizzle out from the 10 on in. Well, Monty Clark wondered too as his Lions had to settle for a thin field goal instead of a nice fat touchdown. Yes, Monty, these are the times that try men's souls. With a 6-0 lead, the Lions kicked off, and despite some sloppy Redskins play, it was Detroit that came up with egg on its face. Or rather, Detroit came up with their hands on Tony Green's face mask, a move that cost 5 yards more on a 22-yard return. It wasn't until early in the second quarter that the Redskin attack was unshackled as Theismann went overland to John McDaniel for 52 yards. Three plays later, the same combination hooked up for a score as Joe ran to his right, saw McDaniel wide open, did his Babe Ruth imitation, and fired the ball home. Unfortunately for Washington, the reason Joe had so long to throw was because the Redskins were detected holding on the play. It never showed on the scoreboard. Nevertheless, the pass was an artistic triumph, sort of like a dynamite movie that bombs at the box office. Pushed back and now facing a Detroit secondary that was covering like an eider-down quilt, Theismann made an uncharacteristic error. Instead of swallowing the ball, he forced a pass to wide-open Charlie Weaver, who brought it back to Joe. The Detroit defense was loving it, as well they should have. The only problem they had to worry about was what their offense would do with the gift. Well, either the gift was the wrong color or it didn't fit, because the Lion offense immediately returned it on the very next play when Washington free safety Jake Scott intercepted. Defensive hands had worked hard for Detroit in the first half, and once again they returned the ball to the offense. Tight end David Hill came up with an excellent diving catch, and the Big Cats were rolling. Danielson to King was good for 19 yards and a first down. Then Rick Kane ripped up the middle for 11. But when the Lions got close, the offense once again got the sputters and once again had to settle for a field goal and a 9-0 lead. It might have held until halftime had not the Washington defense stopped the Lions on the next series. Tom Skladany's punt was blocked by Don Harris. The ball popped high into the end zone, where number 45, Gerard Williams, recovered for a Redskin touchdown. So instead of going to the locker room trailing 9-0, the Redskins were in it 9-7 and had just what they needed now in terms of momentum, inspiration, and a hook on which to hang the Lions in the second half. Washington, the NFC's second-rated offensive team, had been reduced to pop gun proficiency in the first half, totaling just 27 yards rushing and 53 passing. Good for a miserable 2 first downs while being shut out by the Detroit defense. The sky-high Lions continued to growl in the second half as they skunked the Skins for much of the third period, too. On their first 3 third-period possessions, Washington would gain only an additional 43 yards and add just 2 first downs. The performance by the Lion defense was not a surprise. They are the 6th-rated defense in the conference and lead the NFC against the pass. They were having their finest game of the season against the Redskins, almost totally smothering the Washington offense, while the Lions special teams contained the conference's leading punt and kickoff return man, Tony Green, number 34. Kick coverage that crushed Green on the Washington 7-yard line would help Detroit increase their lead. After holding the Redskins once again, the Lions began a successful drive toward the Washington goal line. On this drive, Danielson used a roll right tactic to avoid the Washington pass rush that helped complete 1 short play and then 1 very long one. The short one went to David Hill and was good for 12 yards and a first down. The long one gained a good deal more. Freddie Scott made a great catch, but it was out of bounds. Still, there was reason for joy for Detroit because on the play, the Redskins were called for interference, and the Lions gained 49 yards on the penalty. Another angle of the play shows that Redskin defensive back Joe Lavender really had no chance on the play. After Danielson rolled to his right, Scott was wide open. Had Danielson gotten the ball to him quicker, the Lions might have had 6 points. But the ball was in the air so long, Lavender had time to close in and actually got to Scott before the ball did. The penalty gave the Lions a first down on the Redskin 13, but Detroit unfortunately continued its inability to score a touchdown. Washington successfully stopped a 3rd and 8 play by holding it to a 7-yard gain, and Detroit was forced to settle for Benny Ricardo's 4th field goal and a 12-7 lead. Detroit soon got yet another scoring opportunity when linebacker Ed O'Neill intercepted Theismann and returned to the Redskin 26-yard line. A touchdown at this point would have put Washington's undefeated season in serious jeopardy, and even a field goal would have put Detroit ahead by more than 7. But this time, the Lion offense outdid itself. They not only failed to get the touchdown, but they moved 5 yards backward and gave Ricardo a tougher field goal, which he missed from 48 yards out. Detroit had had the chance to bury Washington in the 3rd quarter, but could not do it. And given a reprieve, the Redskins finally put together a drive. With seconds to go in the 3rd quarter, Washington crossed midfield for only the 2nd time in the game. But once there, they opened up and went with a type of play that has juiced up their offense this season. On the first play of the fourth quarter, John McDaniel carried a reverse to the 21-yard line. And on the second play of the period, the Washington offense finally put a score on the board. Tight end Gene Fugett's fine catch gave the Redskins their first lead. A repeat of the play reveals it didn't come easy. Theismann got perfect protection, but Fugett had to stretch way out, then stay in the end zone to get the score. For Fugett, it was his 5th touchdown catch of the season as he continued to be Theismann's favorite touchdown target, catching 5 of Theismann's first 9 touchdown passes of the season. The Redskins now led 14-12, and with Detroit the league's second lowest scoring team, the 2-point lead seemed like a lot more. Both teams failed to get even a single first down on their next series, and when Detroit faced a 3rd and 10 on the Redskin 41, the Lions were on the brink of failing once again inside Washington territory. An incredible catch by tight end David Hill saved the Lion drive. Hill, a third-year player from Texas A&I, has always had his share of confidence and expects to be the NFL's next great tight end. Another look at his catch reveals he probably has a good point, for it is not only a truly remarkable catch, it came in the cauldron of crucial playtime when the Lions simply had to have it. Hill's drive-continuing catch led to a Lion lead when Rick Kane bounced off a stack at the line and bounded into the end zone. Kane's 6-yard touchdown run put Detroit back on top 19-14 with 6 minutes left, as the Lions finally scored a touchdown when it mattered. The Redskins had been victimized by a fine individual effort by Kane, who stayed on his feet despite a clean shot by middle linebacker Harold McClinton and continued into the end zone. The Redskin perfect season had 2.5 minutes left when Theismann began Washington's last chance from 74 yards away. Consecutive passes to Mike Thomas gained 13, then 30 yards as the Redskins reached the Lion 25 with 1:31 left in the game. When Theismann completed his 3rd straight pass, the Redskins had pulled it out. A great catch by McDaniel put Washington in front for good, 21-19. Looking at the winning touchdown again reveals that McDaniel, who became a starter when Danny Buggs was injured, made a fine catch, leaping over Tony Sumler for the score. For Theismann, it was his 2nd touchdown pass as he took advantage of a change in the Lion lineup. Sumler, who was signed on the Thursday preceding the game, was in service because of an injury to the Lions' #1 draft pick, Luther Bradley. With Theismann hot when he had to be, the Redskins exhibited another facet of an excellent football team, the ability to come from behind. That's just what the Redskins are, an excellent football team that remains undefeated. We licked them every way but on the scoreboard, said Lion coach Monty Clark, and that, too, is an indicator of how good the Redskins are. To be able to win games when you're not at your peak and ripe for an upset lends further evidence that the Washington Redskins are title contenders again.